The inspirational story of our nation's first American-born saint begins on August 28, 1774, with her birth in New York City. Elizabeth was the daughter of Dr. Richard Bailey, a physician, and the first professor of anatomy at King's College, now Columbia University, and his wife Catherine, the daughter of an Episcopalian rector from Staten Island. The Baileys were devout Episcopalians and respected members of New York society. Elizabeth and her younger sister Mary enjoyed a life of privilege. Unfortunately, when Elizabeth was only 3 years old, her mother died. Dr. Bailey remarried not long after, and Elizabeth developed a genuine affection for her stepmother and 7 stepbrothers and sisters. Elizabeth's education was provided by her father. Her notebooks reveal a strong interest in religious studies and history. Elizabeth loved to read, and though she read all the popular works of the time, her favorite books were the Bible, the Lives of the Saints, and The Imitation of Christ. Elizabeth grew in grace, intelligence, and beauty, and eventually caught the eye of a young, wealthy merchant named William McGee Seton. William was a first-generation American of English parentage. Like Elizabeth, he was a devout Episcopalian. On January 25, 1794, Elizabeth and William were married, and the first 8 years of their marriage were happy and prosperous. William worked in the family shipping business, and Elizabeth busied herself raising the couple's children, Anna Maria, William, Richard, Catherine, and Rebecca. Also during this time, Elizabeth developed a special relationship with her sister-in-law, Rebecca, and the two undertook many charitable endeavors together, one of them being the founding of a society to assist widows with young children. They were even called the Protestant Sisters of Charity for the various good works they performed. Unfortunately for the Setons, just when their happy, prosperous life together was gaining momentum, life in post-revolutionary America began to deal them one blow after another. First, the family business, for various reasons, began to founder. Then, William's father died, leaving William not only in charge of the failing family business, but in charge of 7 half-brothers and sisters as well. Soon, William's health began to fail, and he contracted tuberculosis. Around the same time, Elizabeth's father died of yellow fever. Doctors of the time felt a change of climate benefited those suffering from tuberculosis, so the Seton family doctors recommended that William go to Italy. The Seton firm had friends in Livorno, so William and Elizabeth decided to sail for that city. Only Anna Maria, their oldest child, accompanied them. Once in Italy, however, they were placed in quarantine due to the yellow fever that was rampant in New York. The quarantine building was cold, damp, and not at all therapeutic for William. 8 days after the family's release from quarantine, William died of tuberculosis. Elizabeth always had a strong sense of the will of God, and this is what helped her through the many moments of sorrow in her life. Elizabeth decided to remain in Italy until the following summer. During that time, she experienced the hospitality and Catholic spirituality of her husband's business friends, the Felikis. Through this, she developed a strong attraction for the Catholic faith, and the Felikis provided great support during her quest for the true faith. When Elizabeth returned to New York in the summer of 1804, she knew in her heart that the Catholic faith provided something missing in Episcopalianism, and she decided to convert. The decision shocked and dismayed her family and high society friends. In fact, her relatives cut off financial aid to Elizabeth and her family and generally ostracized them. Despite all this, Elizabeth joined the Catholic Church in 1805. Elizabeth's conversion left her with little means to support her family. A couple early attempts to teach school failed when rumors were spread that Elizabeth would try to convert all the children to Catholicism. Fortunately, one day, Elizabeth met Father William Duberg, the rector of St. Mary's Seminary in Baltimore. Father Duberg was captivated by her story of conversion and asked her to come to Baltimore to teach. She accepted and opened St. Joseph's School for Girls. Soon, other women came to help her. Together, they realized they had a common mission and made plans to form a sisterhood. Through a wealthy benefactor, they were able to buy land in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And there they set up the first free Catholic school in America. Finally, on March 25, 1809, Elizabeth pronounced her vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. From that time on, she was known as Mother Seton. Not only was she mother to her religious sisters, but she still had the care of her 5 children, who all lived with her. A rule for the community was still needed, however, and it was decided to obtain the rule of St. Vincent de Paul's Daughters of Charity in France, since their mission was similar to that of the Americans. Archbishop Carroll of Baltimore formally approved this rule of sisterhood in January 1812, and Elizabeth was elected superior. Thus was formed the first religious community in the United States. Elizabeth led her new community well, always submissive to the will, as she called it. As Mother Seton, she experienced many joys and sorrows, from the openings of new schools and orphanages to the deaths of her sisters, one of whom was her 17-year-old daughter, Anna Maria, who died of tuberculosis. Through everything, Elizabeth's goal was not only to teach children the basics of education, but to reveal to them the mysteries of the Catholic faith as well. This became the legacy of the Sisters of Charity as the founders of the American parochial school system. Elizabeth would lose her 14-year-old daughter, Rebecca, to tuberculosis in 1816, before the family enemy, as she called it, would claim her as well in 1821. By the time of her death, her inspiration had led to the founding of nearly 24 sister communities around the U.S. Elizabeth's cause for sainthood was introduced in 1907 due to her sanctity and the far-reaching effects of her mission. Beatification came in 1963. In anticipation of her canonization in 1975, the governor of Maryland proclaimed 1974 as Seton Bicentennial Year. Elizabeth Ann Seton is truly a model saint for all Americans. Through the joys and sorrows of her life, she relied on the will of God to show her the way. She made service of others in God's name her focus. She demonstrated that the glory of God will always outshine the glory of wealth or social position, and she showed us that in preparing children for life, we must prepare them for heaven as well.